Hello, beautiful ladies. Welcome to Women's Hour, Wamen Hour, as it's now called, number 59. Thanks very much for joining us, and thank you to my panel of beautiful ladies. We have the my number one, as always, faithful Birdie. Welcome, Birdie.
Good evening. It's nice to be back. It's been a while, I think.
Did you enjoy your break, though? Is it nice watching Wamen Hour without having to participate?
It is. There's been quite a few different subjects, which is nice to see. Sorry, my desk is falling apart next to me. It's been one of those evenings. I've just had issues earlier, just to keep everyone up to date. If I do blank out at any time, it's because my laptop's a piece of crap and it might die on me. So, I don't know what's happening with it, but everything's falling apart around me. Everything's going well. That's pretty much all I can ask for at the moment.
And without going into too much detail, Birdie, the new sponsor of Wamen Hour, is courtesy of your own small home business. Is that right?
It is, yes. Douglas Castle is the name of the little business I have. I'm completely self-taught, but yeah, I make jewellery, I do photography prints. I have got a Twitter page now. It's taken me a while to get a Twitter page for my business account. So yeah, go and follow that if you haven't already.
All right, thank you very much. And next up, we'll have Haven Woods. Thanks very much for joining us tonight.
Evening. It's nice to be here again. I think last time I possibly mentioned chickens, and I'm here to mention chickens again.
Oh yeah, chickens will be discussed. It's on the agenda.
I love an agenda.
And cows, I'm roping you in for tonight's title topic, which we will address after we go through the super chats. That have built up over the last few weeks. So you're going to talk about video games with me. Thanks for joining for that.
Absolutely. Greetings, everyone, and I'm glad to be here as always.
Great. So let's just get started, because we do have super chats to catch up on from previous weeks. Right up at the start, I'll apologise again to the viewer who requested that we review the film The Bothersome Man. It's a Norwegian film. It's just not available in this country. I've looked. I can't buy the DVD or the Blu-ray. I can't stream it, and I can't even illegally download it after looking up how to do that for the very first time in my life. Having never downloaded anything illegally and having to resort to it, I discovered that there's only one person torrenting who's uploaded The Bothersome Man online, and there's nobody seeding it, so there's just no way to download it. There's no way to buy it legally except to go to Norway and to stream it there. A lot of VPNs are blocked by streaming services, so I really don't know what to do other than to allow the person who requested the super chat to make another suggestion. I don't think I'm going to be able to watch the film, so sorry about that. That was the user named that was space I don't know how to say that. Sorry about that. But to get on to other leading super chats, if you'd like to have your topic discussed by the women or by me, you want us to review a film or a book or a blog, anything, a news item, then send in your super chats, and as always, the highest paying super chat of the night will decide the next topic that we cover down the queue. But I think we're going to have a blank slate after we tackle all of these. That's it. We'll have no more obligations until we get some more tonight. So do send those in and see if you get lucky. So in that vein, the first topic that was requested from last week's stream, 2 weeks ago, is how many pets is too many to have in a family? How many is too many cats? I think was the actual super chat. So let's just throw this over to Birdie, because I just get the feeling you're just keeping something inside that you're just waiting to share. Birdie, go on.
I mean, this came up in our little behind the scenes chat, and I just point blank said I was going to bring it up on stream. There's a bit of controversy going on about how many pets was too many. I wouldn't say it's a secret, but I'm going to let it out now that I had a lot of pets growing up. I mean, my family had a lot of pets. So off the top of my head, growing up, I hope you guys have a pen and a paper for this. So we had a 180-litre fish tank, which had a silly amount of fish in it. We had 3 cats, 2 dogs, chickens, a rabbit. I've had guinea pigs twice growing up. My sister had a hamster. I think that's it. Did we have any more? No, I think that's it. So nope. We had quite a few. So, I mean, in terms of having too many pets, I think as long as you can keep care of them properly, have space for them, etc., then I don't really see the issue. I mean, our house was a bit like a zoo at times. It was quite amusing. We had one chicken who used to come into the house. Havenwoods, I'm waiting for this. Yeah, I'm waiting for yeah, my sister named her Mary, and she was a horrible bird. She used to attack your shoes and all sorts. But we had a little story time here for chickens. They were bantams, Havenwoods. I'm sure you know bantam chickens. Very cute, very small little chickens. They used to come in the house. We didn't used to let them in the house.
They would come in anyway.
They would just come in anyway. Yeah, we had no choice in that. They would come in anyway. They used to bully the cats. That was quite funny.
Naturally.
But naturally, it's what chickens do. Our computer table, if I was sat at the computer table with it, it was one of the old-fashioned ones where you open the doors on it and you kind of sit in it. So we had the doors open, and this chicken would come in, and she would jump up and sit on the door of the computer table and just sit there and cheep away at you whilst you're doing whatever schoolwork you were trying to get on with. Meanwhile, you had the cats running in and out, chasing each other. You had 2 dogs. My mum has a dog now as well. The rabbit, again, was kind of like a house bunny. She did whatever she wanted to. She had the whole garden to herself. She used to sleep in the cat bed.
How did the cats cope?
The cats didn't mind. The cats loved the rabbit. I mean, there's photos of them when I was younger, them sleeping in the same bed. They just didn't care. The cats and the dogs used to get on really well as well. I mean, it was chaotic, but a nice kind of chaotic. Everyone loved our pets. They're all very friendly to me anyway. So in terms of having too many pets, I mean, there is a limit. Don't get me wrong. There is a limit. I've been to people's houses, and growing up, I've known friends who have had far too many pets, to the point where, you know, you've got like reptile tanks everywhere and dogs running riot and you can't move. Now that to me is just too many, especially if they're unclean. I'm sure we've all got memories of somebody's house where they've got a house cat, or they use a little litter box or anything like that, and it's very unpleasant. There is a right and a wrong way to have pets and look after pets. I think that's a big difference between owning too many pets and being able to own a lot of pets.
Yeah, I'd agree.
It's an issue when the people who live in the house have become so accustomed to the not just to the smell, like literally you can't smell things if you're just completely bathed in them all the time. But also there's a psychological kind of apparently analogy there where they don't even think it's weird that there's just, you know, constantly an animal leaving or entering the room. You know, they're just completely out of touch with what a normal visitor will think about their house, because they're so accustomed to just having dogs and cats wandering and birds fluttering around, squawking and all of that they don't really consider that their guests might not feel the same way.
Absolutely, yeah. Just to clarify, I don't have these animals now. This is when I was growing up. So all of them. The last one, bless her heart, to pass away last year was my cat, who was 20 years old.
Wow.
So I'd had her I'd had her for 20 years, should we say. So yes, that brood of animals sadly have all gone now. I do not live with my family anymore, so.
Well, I think there's a lot that children in particular learn from having pets.
Absolutely,
not just about sort of life and death, but just about how to care for, the responsibility of caring for another thing. Even when, taking the dog for a walk, even when it's raining, and having to, pick up its poos, and doing the unpleasantness that comes with many of the joys of life, I think is a good lesson to learn for children.
Yeah, I think it's definitely very much a learning process, like you say, Per, and I think it does help in terms of being able to care for something. And with me, it was very much because all the animals I listed were kind of family animals. So yeah, we'd help sort of brush the dogs and do things like that and play with them, take them out for walks, etc. Which not only kept us all healthy because you're taking them out for walks, you're getting some fresh air, it's great. But when I got a bit older, when I had the guinea pigs, they were mine, so I paid for them. I learned the monetary value of it as well. And then when I got my second set of guinea pigs, it was completely up to me. So I'd pay for any vet bills, absolutely everything was down to me. It's a very good thing to learn, I think, because it not only helps you with money, it helps you financially in terms of knowing how to put money aside for certain things. So when you are older and you do move out, etc., you know how to do that naturally. I do think that's a big thing.
All right. Knowing that we have more topics to get to, I think we'll get round the panel and see the rest of our ladies. Havenwoods, I don't know. You're here to talk about chickens as brilliant pets, but do you have any experience with cats? How many cats is too many?
I think the number of cats is too many is how many that the cats themselves are unhappy with. So growing up, I had 2 cats, a mother and son, and it took them about 10 years to get comfortable with each other and stop kind of chasing each other everywhere. And then by the time that the son was about 10 years old, the mother had forgiven him for not moving out. So they kind of got on with each other again. It took them a while. And then with our cat that we have at the moment, who you'll hear on Proper Horror Show's stream, making his opinions felt very loudly. Indeed. He's 18 now, 18 and a half. When we got him from Battersea, they were just adamant he does not want to share with other cats. He was in a home where there was one other cat who was from his litter, so theoretically they should have been bonded, but they did not get on, and he was really stressed. So he's very much an only cat kind of guy. We'd have loved to rescue more cats, but obviously like his needs came first. So it's sort of, to me, I think it's kind of just important to have, like Birdie said, as long as you can kind of look after the animal's welfare, then I think it's the animal's welfare that comes first. So if you've got cats that are happy being part of a multi-pet household, then fine. If you've got a cat first, then they come first. But if you want lots and lots of pets, then chickens, my special topic, I would definitely say they're actually the fastest growing kind of category of pet in the UK at the moment. I think partly after sort of 2020 and all that excitement, people suddenly realised they wanted a supply of fresh eggs when it was suddenly a bit more limited. But also they're just really entertaining pets to have. I've never met animals that are so enthusiastic to see you as a chicken will be. And kind of just chaos in small feathery T-Rex form. We thought our fences were quite high, and then a few months ago we got a phone call from the neighbours that we don't get on with to check whether or not it was our chicken who'd waltzed into their conservatory, terrified their Jack Russell and knocked over their houseplants. And yes, it was. And that's the chicken in my picture actually at the moment. She was called Evie. We lost her a few weeks ago.
But you can't cuddle a chicken, right? I think a lot of people
you can. Yeah, you can.
You can? Okay.
I mean, depending on the chicken. We had our first flock of girls were all ex-battery rescue hens. So they'd come from the industrial farm system. And one of them, we called our first flock of hens after drag queens, which I can only apologise to their departed souls. But Ms. Cracker was an incredibly friendly hen. Partly because she was bottom of the pecking order, so she kind of, I think, started hopping up on our shoulder to get away from the other hens. But then just whenever you were in the garden, she wanted to be with you, she would hop up on your lap. And chickens purr. This is a thing that people don't know until they've had chickens, but they do purr. And so she would sit on your lap in the summer, just sort of tucked up and sort of oodled down and just kind of purr quietly and fall asleep. So we haven't actually met. The rest of our chickens aren't quite as cuddly. One of them will accept being picked up if she really has to, but the others are much more kind of, much less tame. But yeah, they're lovely pets. In the future, I think my partner and I really want to have a small holding with lots of land and many, many more animals. So watch this space, Birdie. We'll be coming to you for tips.
Perfect. That sounds great. But I do have to agree with you on the chicken front, because the first chickens we ever had were the bantams, and we had 3 of them, and we actually kept them in the back garden. And then as we got older, my parents got an allotment when I was probably about 8 or 10 years old. And they've had chickens up there since. And yeah, no, I agree. Some of them are very, very friendly. Bantams are very friendly. It does, I think, depend on the breed as well. Bantams are known for being very sociable, and they like being picked up. They like being cuddled. They're quite funny in that way, and they are basically small and fluffy. So they're great for just tucking under your arm. It's quite amusing. And then my parents' second lot, I think it was the second lot, they were not as friendly, but they were definitely more characterful, so they were definitely more amusing. And the lot they've got now is really funny. They absolutely love my dad, so they will run to him, and he will just pick them up, and he dotes on them. It is quite funny, but it's very sweet. And yeah, chickens are definitely just a bundle of fun. They've got great characters, and no one bird is the same. I'm sure you'll agree with me on that.
Oh, for sure.
They all are completely different. It's great.
They're just wonderful animals, really.
As a child reading Enid Blyton books, I was absolutely enamored with the idea of having a pet, like any pet that would sit on my shoulder and like go around with me all day. So if you're telling me a chicken can do that, I'm sold.
Oh, yeah.
That's all you had to say. Or a chipmunk or a parrot or anything, like just like any animal. I want to have it. Like a rat, you know. I love it. You ever see that film Abyss where there's a guy who's got kind of looks like Chris Reagan, and he's got a rat on his shoulder for the entire film. It's like his character. Anyway, cats, too many?
Yeah. Just for the sake of time, I'll keep it short. I think that as long as you can cohabitate with everyone and everything in your house, with people and animals, how they feel about each other, as Birdie and Havenworth just said. Basically, yeah. I guess on chickens, a really funny WikiHow article to look up at your earliest convenience is how to hypnotize a chicken. And I guess with how many cats is too many cats, I've been seeing in recent years that animal hoarding has kind of been a recent thing, largely because of the accessibility of animals now compared to prior like times in history that animals were kind of seen as like a luxury. So don't do that, please. Let's be nice to our animals, and just don't be crazy with how many you own, I suppose.
You guys are way too forgiving here, right? I'll have to come down as being the mean one. Like, I think if you fill your life with caring for loads and loads of pets, you haven't really left enough room for a proper life, in my opinion. I just think you need to get more hobbies if you spend like, it's not a bad hobby to have in the grand scheme of things, but maybe like try like reading books or helping a look. If you have that much like effort, then maybe try growing vegetables or like getting involved in your community. I just think it's a little bit self-indulgent to just fill your life with these little animals that you have to amuse yourself, like a little, like your own menagerie that you're just hoarding.
Oh, I love it.
Even if they're all very well cared for, that's almost almost my point. Is you get these, the classic cat lady, not the insane cat lady from The Simpsons, who's like a hoarder, but I'm thinking more of the kind of modern cat lady who doesn't have any children, and she treats all of her cats, puts them in outfits and gives them gourmet food and treats them like her babies. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's like, it's not just about caring for the animals. It's like, what is this function is the pet serving in your life? You know, if it should be like a little garnish on top of a life, in my opinion, not like the center of your entire world.
I
Yeah,
do agree with
yeah.
that, though.
I definitely
actually
agree.
think there's a right time for pets, and I think when I was quite lucky growing up in the fact that both parents worked. It was a case of there was always somebody home because one parent was on nights, one was on days. Of course, we were at school, so there was always somebody around, and being able to grow up with them. So we had the perfect time where we didn't have basically other commitments as children. My parents had already had theirs, and now they were in the next stage. Now they're in the next, if that makes sense. So like now I have other commitments. We do not have any pets currently, because we're in that next stage, if that makes sense. So there's always, I think, a correct time to have pets, and I think most people know when that is. Some people, hoarders, etc., people who use them as a statement, and as Cows was saying, they do not, which is a shame.
And also, if you refer to your pet as a fur baby, you should not have a pet.
Yeah.
Or pushing it around in one of those little baby carriages. I see them more and more these
Oh my
days.
goodness.
Dogs have legs, okay? That's all I'm saying. Let them use them.
Okay.
Exactly.
That's the end of the topic. I'm putting a full stop on it.
Yeah.
But no. But the dot. We're gonna go around. I don't want to hear a single word from you except the number that is too many cats for, let's say, a family, or between 1 and 3 children, just a typical English family. How many cats is too many? Birdie, just say the number and nothing else.
4.
Havenwoods.
2.
Cows.
4.
2. That's the end of the segment, everybody. Thank you for participating. Well done, women.
Is that the limit, or is 2 too many though?
Well, 3 would be too many then.
Okay. Okay.
No, you're right.
Maths.
Good point. Thank you for the correction. Okay, next topic. Someone paid for this. who in the? I assume this person is assuming that, in this case, that your wife, or the mother of your children, is making the family meals. Say, who should be deciding what those meals consist of? If should it be the person who cooks it or the person who is in charge of the household? I think we'll spend a few minutes on this. I don't want to spend the rest of the show on it because I want to get to our title topic. But Birdie, you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah.
I guess,
when I first saw this, I was a bit sort of not annoyed by it, but why is this even an issue? I mean, we never really thought about who's deciding what to make dinner. I mean, in our house, it's a case of if I've got an idea for dinner, I will ask Alex, "Oh, do you fancy this?" And 9 times out of 10, he'll say yes. If he says no, it's probably because he's eaten earlier. Or if I say, "Oh, I don't know what to cook. What do you fancy?" and then I'll ask him, and then I will cook it. So it goes both ways. If he's cooking that day, he'll do the same with me. So we don't really think about who makes the decision. It just depends who's there on the day or who fancies what on the day, or we don't really make a point of it. In terms of growing up, it was usually my mum who made the decision, and that was it. Whatever she decided, we ate, and that's just how it was. Again, we didn't think anything of it. Normally because she was cooking, I think. If my dad was cooking, it was usually just a roast. So again, we kind of knew what we were having anyway. But there was none of this. I kind of want to get this in here because I hate... I cannot stand when a parent will cook a separate meal for every single child in the house. And I don't mean like children. I mean like 9-10-year-olds upwards. It really annoys me because I just see it as wastage. I see it as way too expensive. When I was growing up, whatever was put in front of me, I ate. And that was it. I wasn't allowed to be fussy, which now is great because now I eat basically any food going. There's very little things that I don't like. But that to me just seems like a lot of hassle trying to cook more than one meal in a single evening. Just cook one meal for everyone. Done. It's so much easier.
Yeah, I think sometimes the mealtime gets split up in families that have very young children that go to sleep early, like so early that it's like
that I understand.
early
Yeah,
to eat,
really.
or in families where one person gets home kind of late from work. also kind of gets split up sometimes. But generally, I think you're right. I think fussy eaters is like a massive problem for a family where it's just one of those things that you just cope with. People, like so many families, they just get around it, because it's they don't want to have the argument, they don't want to put too much pressure on the kids.
Exactly. They
And then they live with this like weight around the every single mealtime becomes a little puzzle to solve for like, oh, we need to figure out all these peculiarities. So but I think that kind of leads into this question where obviously I don't know the context of this, but in my opinion, like if there's a massive disagreement over what to eat, it sounds like one of you is a picky eater.
Yeah.
Like if you're making a huge deal of this, then you're probably like being too picky, I think, and you need to learn to like grow up and eat more kinds of foods, because like most food is like just good. It's like whatever's for dinner, like I want to eat it. And if it's cooked well enough that the person cooking it's happy with it, then it's probably a good meal. You should just eat it.
Yeah.
I think. Havenwoods?
Yeah, I kind of think, like, agree together what you're going to eat. But if one person does most of the cooking and most of the kind of logistics of organising the food and the shopping, then, and the other person just has nothing to do with it, then probably the person who's kind of also having to think about what they're actually eating and cooking probably gets to decide. If you have strong opinions, then chip in and help out. It's probably a bit blunt of me, but that's the thinking.
No, I actually agree with you, Havenwoods. If I can just add on to that, if there's a meal that we've both agreed on, but I know that Alex cooks it better, and 9 times out of 10 he hates the way I cook it. I mean, he'll eat it, but there's certain things where I just make it wrong. He's had I would say a more diverse upbringing than I have. I've stayed in this country my whole life. Alex went to boarding school, etc. So if I make a carbonara the way I make it, he'll eat it, but I can just see his face. It's just like, I wish you didn't make it like that. So if we want carbonara, I will point blank say to him, do you want to make it? And 9 times out of 10, he'll be like, yeah, I'll do it, because he just cooks it better than I do.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you'll get better though. I mean, the more you're together, I think you when you live with someone, you start to cook according to how they like it, as well as how you like it. You come to sort of compromises.
We kind of just cook things, like if we're making the same meal, so let's say I make a chili and Alex makes a chili, it's gonna be different, because we both have very different cooking styles, but we both like each other's cooking. So if sort of one day I'll make a chili, but then another day I'll be like, oh, do you fancy making it? Because I'll actually fancy the chili he makes, then we'll just kind of do that. Or if I know he cooks something better, then I will purposely just ask him, if you want that for tea, then you're gonna have to cook it, because I'm crap at doing that. So
Cows, I'm quite conscious that you're a little bit younger than the other ladies in the on the stream, but if you have something to add, please do.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I was always a very kind of adventurous eater. My family, it was sort of whoever did the shopping decides, but you always consult the other person. For me, when I am with Mr. Hat, he is one of the people that cooks to eat to survive. I'm very much a person who cooks to eat to enjoy, and that definitely changes how I go about like cooking things with him. He's definitely more skilled at cooking some things. Like I feel like there's some elements of cooking that are a little bit more like masculine, like grilling steak because it's like fire and tools and coal, but it's like a little bit different than like baking a nice pie or something like that. So just kind of like what Birdie was saying, we both cook what we're good at, but I think I've definitely inspired him to have a little bit more flavor in his life. I bought him a mortar and pestle. I taught him that pepper tastes good on food. You don't need just a salt shaker. You could put a little bit of pepper on stuff, and it's nice and mind blown. And yeah, he'll ask me like cooking stuff all the time. Like what should I get? What's the most affordable? And I think it's just kind of like a nice thing to do with your partner and with your family. As for pickiness, I have a very picky sibling, literally diagnosed as a super taster, so it makes things a little bit strange. The whole separate dinner things was very apparent in my household. But I mean, there's really no avoiding that in my case because it's literally something medical. But I definitely agree when I go about starting my family. I'm probably going to take what Birdie was saying, her route of, cook something, you put it in front of the kids. The kids don't get kid-friendly food. They need to learn how to eat like a human being, not like a toy.
I think a good tip for that, cows, is cook with them, or if they're not old enough to cook with you, then let them see what you're putting into it. So there's no stigma of, ew, it's a vegetable, because it's being cooked with everything else. You're eating it, and if they see that you're eating it, you eat it as well. And another trick that my mum actually did with me was that she didn't have baby food. We never ate baby food. So what she used to do, and I still do it now, and I think Alex hates me for it, I will cook food without any salt in it. I will add the salt afterwards if people want to add salt to it. And then it would just get blended up, and then that would be the baby food. So we would eat exactly what our parents would eat. So there was no child-friendly foods, as you say. It was just food. Every day, just food, exactly the same as what your parents are eating, and then there's no stigma behind what it is.
Yeah, definitely involving kids in the kitchen, making certain foods that they might be a little bit afraid of more approachable. Kind of using things like, oh, like you're making it with love. Like now I can taste that you've cooked this and it's awesome. Involving kids in things like that, motivating them to try new things. I think that's all very important, especially in like developing like a child's palate. I can definitely tell when I'm with a person who didn't really have that experience and they're more like hesitant to try things. But I mean, I guess for what I was saying before, me and Hat both decide what we eat. So
I don't want to get into a huge thing about picky eaters. Because I think it is so true that in it's kind of modern phenomenon of kids being a bit too sheltered and a bit too coddled. But I kind of started thinking about it differently when I was pregnant and I had like not really bad morning sickness, but there was a lot of food I suddenly went right off, where it would it just made me feel really sick even to smell it. I didn't want to even the thought of eating it made me feel sick, and it wasn't like I was just nauseous all the time. It was just these certain foods that I went off, and that's actually really normal for it's kind of, people always talk about the cravings that pregnant women have, but it's almost, that's just one side of it, where the other side is like, I hate that, like I don't want to eat baked beans ever again. That's disgusting suddenly. And that kind of made me start thinking, like, is this what picky eaters are experiencing when they say they don't want this? Like, is something this visceral really what is like behind this picky eating phenomenon, where it's just this, that's sickening? I can't. I really do feel for these people if that is what that's what they're experiencing, is just this visceral disgust with certain foods.
Yeah. When I had COVID and I was recovering my sense of taste and smell, I felt very similar. My brother, who's the picky one, actually, he developed kind of like a lesser taste, so he could start to eat like vegetables, for example. Like he's not really into vegetables, but when he got COVID, he couldn't taste it, and he was so happy that he could eat vegetables. But when I was getting my taste and smell back, there were certain things that I would just be repulsed by. Like I had to relearn how to eat meat, for example, because the texture and the taste just wasn't aligning in the way that was familiar to me. And it was extremely freaky because I'd been so used to, like eating a steak, eating a burger, and all these things were just like repulsive when I was recovering.
Yeah. Yeah, the same thing with COVID with me. Some things still don't taste the same, and it's been a year. It's really the disease itself wasn't that bad, but the after effects. We've from Havenwood's dear old wife. We have a super chat. Dear Captain Pocard, I think that's me. Order the women to review Double Indemnity 1944 film, I'm guessing, and discuss cocktails. That's 2 topics. That's cheating, but I will try to encourage the women to do their homework.
And I think that's what it.
Okay. So thanks so much for that. If you have a super chat that you'd like to recommend a subject, and all you have to do is beat £8, and that will replace the place of this one. So thanks for those.
That
I do
film
want
is
to.
so good.
Is it?
Highly recommend. Yeah, really, really good.
Good. Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely watch it if there's not a higher super chat, that is, and I'll try and get the other women to watch it too, so we can review it. Great. Okay. I do want to move on if there are no sort of closing thoughts. Well, who decides the meal? That seems like we took that in a weird direction, but yeah, I think it's like all of these rules about like who does this and who does that. It's coming up for a rule for it kind of seems like you're not a very good, decision maker. Like come to something that works, like an arrangement that works for your family or your couple. That seems like if you're making like a hard and fast rule, it sounds like you're probably not communicating and making decisions together properly. We got $10. These days the exchange rate is so whack that I don't even know what the dollar to which of these is winning right now. Perhaps you dislike different food because your microbiome is out of whack. I've heard that there's something that gut bacteria changes and makes some, like it can make you crave or be disgusted by different food. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a dietitian or a nutritionist. I don't know if it's true. That's something I've heard. It seems possible to me.
As of today's date, $10 is winning above £8.
All right. Well, it wasn't a topic suggested anyway.
Yeah.
But thank you for the super chat. Double indemnity still top of the boards. There's still time. We've got I don't know how long the stream will go for, but there's still time. And without further ado, this is a topic that nobody has requested, but you're all here and you all clicked on this thumbnail. So in a way, didn't all of the viewers request this based on my beautiful thumbnail and title?
Yes, absolutely. They have no choice. They're here now.
You're here now. So I wanted to talk to Cows in particular, another fellow gamer girl. About I'm saying that with heaps and heaps of irony, by the way, please.
Yeah.
About playing video games because it's something that is extremely modern and not very cool. It's not like a great hobby that I would suggest people get into if they don't like it. But for people who like video games, I think they all have this experience of intense bonding with other people. Like when you're playing a game together. Sometimes against each other, but particularly if it's like cooperative, where it can be just a really fun time to spend with your friends. And I think it's a really nice hobby for a couple to share together. It's a way that I got to know my husband before we were married, and I was living, I was going to university, like 100 miles away, and we could only see each other once every like 5 weeks when I was on half term. And he bought me an Xbox 360 for my birthday and sent it in the post for me to set up. And we would just spend hours and hours on the weekends and in the evenings playing games together. And it was a really nice way for us to spend time together when we were going long distance like that. And then it's something that we've shared all the way up, since then through our marriage. It's a hobby that survived having 2 children. It's something you can play in the house without having to get a babysitter. You don't have to go out. So it is something that's really enriched our relationship, even if it's not what you think of as a kind of wholesome, useful hobby. But it works for us, and I think there's an argument that it's it can be a useful tool for some couples to spend some fun time together and to bond. I think that there are a lot of, typically people who really, really like video games are men, even if not all men like video games. But there's a lot of men out there, probably a lot of them watching this stream, who like the idea of having a girlfriend or a wife who is somewhat interested in their hobby. Like they want to share their hobby with someone. I don't know. Cows, how did you get into playing video games?
Well, I've basically always been interested in technology. Before the stream, I just helped Birdie with a mic issue. basically, I got introduced to the computer and the internet at a very young age. I wouldn't recommend that, but that's the case for me. And just, finding fun things to do. I was an only child for 10 years of my life. I lived in a neighborhood where there weren't a lot of kids my age to play with. Um, so when I wasn't at school, I turned to games because I could very easily find people my own age to hang out with, do something mutually fun together. I've made lifelong friends off of games. Um, and yeah, I think that if you are doing it as a couple, it can be just, even if you do it like very casually, it could just be something that you pick up every now and again when you're bored. It can be a really fun time. Um I think that there's definitely inaccessible gaming where you need like a bunch of hardware and maybe like a really good computer, or if you're doing a co-op, maybe two good computers. But there's a lot of things that you can just do like on your phone, for example. There's like Roblox, there's like a bunch of free stuff. I know Fortnite is free. I don't really play Fortnite. I don't like that one personally, but I've seen even like normie couples enjoy playing sort of things like that together. Um, I mean, if you are sort of like gaming autist, you're probably not going to meet a girl on the street who's going to want to play like Hoi 4 with you, but you could influence her to maybe, want to try it, for example. But yeah, I think that getting your a significant other or friends into games, especially for me, like Poe was saying, when you're long distance or if you're just bored and you have some downtime, it can be a really fun collaborative activity.
Well, yeah, thanks for that. I was going to open the floor to Birdie and Havenwoods if they have anything to say. Havenwoods, I know you're not feeling too well tonight. Thanks for joining us. But if you want to go, go lie down if you need to.
I was just gonna say that games aren't a sort of huge thing that me and my partner bonded over necessarily, but she did make a point of introducing me to some of her favourites quite early on. Mainly Fatal Frame 2, the one with the cameras and the ghosts, and I was absolutely rubbish. So every time a ghost appeared, I would scream and throw the controller at her.
I had the same exact experience of being terrified of that game, even though it's like really clunky, like polygon, like really low poly characters. So that game terrified me.
The atmosphere is incredible. I died in a whole variety of ways.
I didn't even get past the first ghost, so you did very well.
Well, I only got past the first ghost because every time there was a ghost, I made Chloe deal with it. So that was quite a nice bonding experience. But then again, I'm married to the woman who made a horror syllabus for me when we first got together. So I'm not sure we're a typical couple.
One of my suggestions, I wrote a list of like things you like, literally like a guide for how to get your significant other into games. And one of the things I cautioned against is introducing games that you really love, like you have like a really strong like attachment to these like really nostalgic games, because if your girlfriend doesn't get it, she doesn't like it, it's just gonna feel bad.
Yeah.
Like she's like she murdered your baby. You're like, oh, I don't like this. Like it's just gonna make you dislike her more if she hates this thing that you love. So just I think it's better to play something that you're both new to. Like just try something new together. Can work as long as you got good recommendations that you think it's good. One of the first games that I played when I was, I think my first experience with playing games was going to my next door neighbor's house and playing Zelda Ocarina of Time on the N64. I think that's a lot of people's sort of first experience of playing games, of my generation. And I really, really loved that game as my next door neighbor was a girl as well. So I've got this idea in my head that Zelda games and, Ocarina of Time and Skyward Sword and Twilight Princess, these 3D, like modern Zelda games, probably Breath of the Wild as well. They, I don't want to say they appeal to women, but they're at least accessible to women, where they're not really, really difficult. They've got this kind of approachable world and story and characters that are kind of cute and easy to like. And it's not, I've said here to avoid games that have like shooting games and fighting games and games that require like a lot of kind of tactics and things that women just aren't going to be that typically less interested in and less good at. It's just going to be frustrating watching your girlfriend trying to do something that's really difficult for her. She's just going to hate it, I think.
Yeah.
If she doesn't already like games. But yeah, again, Zelda, you just you can lock on and just you mash the button and you swing your sword, and it's really cool without needing loads of prior knowledge or any good skills. Do you like Zelda games, Kels?
I personally haven't played any Zelda games. I've definitely seen them a lot. I know of them. I know a lot of the characters.
And you call yourself a gamer girl.
I haven't played them myself.
Call out.
Yeah, I mean, hey. I've played games. I mean, I'm trying to think of like ones that would be suggestible to like the average woman.
The Sims was like a really still very much appeals to women, even more than men.
Absolutely. The Sims is great. There's Pokemon, like that person said. I mean, it's like cute things, and it's just kind of like a rolling system. I guess I've played a little bit of Pokemon, but it's very obvious like which selections do which things. I feel like a lot of especially like Nintendo games have that, where it's kind of a bit more accessible. I wouldn't introduce a regular woman who has like no knowledge of games to like Dark Souls, for example. If anyone has watched Academic Agent play Dark Souls, that was basically my first reaction to playing Dark Souls. I did get good at it.
I have to correct you there, Cows, because Academic Agent has never played Dark Souls. You're thinking of his friend, Dark Wizard Morcar.
Oh yeah, true. My apologies on that one.
Absolute rookie mistake. Also, while we're talking about AA, he made an RPG. I don't know if he actually released it. I didn't see if he'd released it, but I saw the screenshots from it, and I did some art for him of Tony Blair, pro bono, I should add. That I don't know. I don't even know if he used it in the end, but because I haven't played the game, I'd like to think that he did.
Yeah. Sorry, Lumberg. But yeah, I mean, like Poe was saying, picking a game that's new to you, there's like really cheap co-op games that come out all the time, especially on consoles. Like just, like fun games that maybe there's only like one or two or just like a handful of levels that you can do with each other. It's kind of like repetitive. Just so she can, get used to the controls, get used to gaming if it's something that's new to her. I think like repetition, familiarity, again, like you were saying with Zelda and those like games, approachable characters, approachable aesthetics. I know that a lot of women are into like Stardew Valley, for example, Animal Crossing. And I've seen couples like commonly like play those games together, kind of make their own, I think they're like farms together. And, like have a lot of fun, even if it's something that you don't think is interesting to you as like a male gamer. Maybe doing it with a person that you love, someone that you enjoy being around, can kind of change that for you.
Yeah, or there's a similar sort of gameplay loop, and it scratches the same itch as those sort of farming games as Terraria and Minecraft.
Yeah,
where you get
absolutely.
that sort of, and you can just play those like literally split screen. I think couch co-op, sitting together, pick up the controllers, or I think with Minecraft you'd need to have like 2 PCs running, but. All of my experience is playing on consoles where you've just got 2 controllers, you pick it up and you can just play together. One of you can drop out or anything like that. Literally hours and hours spent playing Terraria at a time when we were when we were long distance. We just pick up Terraria on a Saturday morning. We just play it all day. That was all I did for a few weeks.
I actually just recommended Panama Hat Terraria. He's never tried it before. I think it's so fun to play. Especially with like friends and like significant others, like it just seems like so comfy.
Yeah, definitely. I like the soundtrack and all of that. Other games that I've written down, Portal 2 was a good one. Okay, that's kind of an older one now these days. I've got these are like co-op games. I've got Gears of War 5 has a mode. It's like literally a girlfriend mode where you the man, the person who's accustomed to video games, gets to play as typical Gears of War protagonist, like a big muscly man with a gun, running around shooting things. And then the person who is new to video games can play as this little robot that flies around and doesn't shoot a gun. It electrocutes the enemies, and it's like it has more armor, so it's harder to die. And instead of having to like aim your reticule at the enemy and shoot, you just have to go near the enemy and electrocute them. It just locks
and it, like,
on.
Auto locks.
So it's kind of taken out the really hard parts of playing a shooter, but lets you participate in the game without being completely patronized. Like, you are serving a useful function in the game without having to get accustomed to all of the mechanics all at once. Like this, I think that would be a good one for.
If I'm not mistaken,
introducing.
I think one of the Saints Rows had like a similar mode. That if you wanted to, you can enable it for one of the players that they're basically just like on God mode, and they just kind of were able to go trigger happy on everyone, and everyone has a good time. So yeah, that could be super fun, especially for introducing her to a game. Even if she knows, like she's on easy mode, you can always kind of motivate her to, if she's comfy where she is, great. If she wants to move on, maybe she'll die a few times, but hey, it'll get her used to, the gaming setting of like being together and doing that with each other.
I've written down It Takes Two. That's a game that I know a lot of couples have played together. And the story of the game is about a couple who are divorcing, who are trying to work, like, they've been tricked into working out their differences together well, anyway, I won't go into it, but if you want to play It Takes Two, I didn't personally like it. Me and my husband found it a bit too easy, but I think for that reason it would be really accessible for a first-time gamer, or to play with a couple as well. There's, like, plenty to do for the for both of you, but it's accessible, basically. That's the line underlined for all of these, is just accessibility. Mm-hmm. Also, A Way Out, another one that I didn't personally enjoy, but I know a lot of couples have enjoyed it, where there's it's like a co-op, almost like a puzzle game, going through this story together and unraveling the plot while also sort of solving these puzzles in the game. I've also got a new category that these aren't co-op games, but they're games where you can quickly pass the controller, or like backseat game with each other and watch what the other person's doing. So games where there's a very short kind of cycle where you can just pass the controller to each other. Something like Celestia, it's a platformer game where you die a lot. So if you die every 30 seconds, you can just pass it between each other, and you're both kind of playing it together. Mm-hmm. Something like Super Monkey Ball, like a lot of these sort of really twitchy games where you can, you play it for 30 seconds, then you die and try again. I've also got Slay the Spire, which I really enjoy playing with my husband. I don't know how like normally friendly that is, but it's turn-based at least. So I've heard that women like puzzle games, so it's not a stretch to think that a game like Slay the Spire might appeal to some people. Also, Overcooked is one that we really, really loved, but I know a lot of people get into like shouting matches with people they play that game with, so I don't know if I can recommend it.
It's so fun.
All right, both of my kids are up now. I think we might have to end another show early. The baby's crying and the old one's asking for my attention. All right. Sorry to end the show prematurely, but thanks everyone for joining. I'll check the super chats to see if there are any higher paying ones, but have a good night. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for watching, and thanks to Cows and Birdie and Havelwood's who's now department. Bye-bye.
Bye.